Welcome back once again to our exploration through the Book of Ecclesiastes. We are in chapter 8, verses 10 through 17, as we go through this sort of trio or trilogy section dealing with the issues of authority, injustice, and faith. This is a stretch of text from chapter 8 into chapter 9, which is dealing with the grim realities, particularly of authority, leading on into injustice and the enigma of life, which is our text today, and then on to the certainty of death and our need for faith in the beginning of chapter 9. So here we're looking at the injustices of this life, as well as the beginning of a little bit of the resort to faith in God. So I will read verses 10 through 17. Yes. Then I saw the wicked buried. They used to go in and out of the holy place, and were praised in the city where they had done such things. This also is vanity. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God, because they fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, neither will he prolong his days like a shadow, because he does not fear before God. There is a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked, and there are wicked people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity. And I commend joy, for man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go well with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep, then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. However much man may toil in seeking, he will not find it out. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out. Thus the reading today. This is a shorter section than most of the texts that we have looked at in this series. And it breaks down into basically 4 pairs of verses as we go through here. We're basically finished with the sort of one verse at a time Proverbs type approach that we've seen for the past chapter or 2. Now we're sort of in pairs for the moment. Verses 10 and 11 are exploring some more injustices in life. We've sort of moved on a bit from the example of authority and the power that kings have over other people. And now we're looking more generally at the injustice of wickedness. The preacher, Koheleth here, sees the wicked being buried. They used to go in and out of the holy place. They were praised in the city where they had done such things. So the wicked were being praised for being wicked, and now they're being buried. And the implication is that they're getting an honorable burial. They're being treated well, remembered well in death, even though they were wicked. So this is vanity. This is havel. This is meaningless. This is a futility in the world. Because he goes on to explain, because this sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. So the fact that wickedness is not divinely punished immediately, and the wicked are buried in honor, leads people to be even more committed to wickedness. They think the lesson is that they can get away with it. And certainly we see this sometimes explicitly spoken aloud in our own culture today. People saying, well, if there was a God, he would punish. And I don't see any punishment, and so how can your God be real? Or how can your God, if real, be significantly powerful, and why should I care? Which, you know, if you're basing your arguments on observation, then that's a reasonable observation. Koheleth agrees. However, there's more than what he sees. Verse 10's I saw is matched with verse 12's yet I know. When I introduced the book of Ecclesiastes at the beginning of this series, that was one of the pairings that I pointed out. There's the thing about what you see under the sun and what is actually true with God. And along with that is what I have seen versus what I know. And now we have one of those major contrasts. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God. And it will not be well with the wicked, because he does not fear before God. So despite his observation of life's appearances, despite the clear vanity of the world around us, Koheleth has faith that there is divine justice awaiting us all. Fear of the Lord does matter after all. Despite his experience, despite his observation, faith is clinging to the divine promise, the divine reality, the divine justice. And just to make sure that we're taking this statement seriously, he now sort of backtracks in the next 2 verses to summarize much of the big picture, many of the things that he's been dealing with over the course of this book. So verses 14 and 15 is where he says, there is a vanity that takes place on the earth, that there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked, and vice versa. In other words, life isn't fair. What happens to people isn't fair. Sometimes the wicked are treated as if they are good. Sometimes the good are treated as if they were wicked. And this is vanity. This is a futility. This is meaningless. This is not encouraging at all. Life is just not fair. And yet his solution, as he has said many times before, is, as he says here in verse 15, I commend joy. For man has nothing better under the sun but to eat and drink and be joyful, for this will go well with him in his toil, through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. So in light of this unfairness of life, you can either be depressed about this or choose to find joy despite this. This is where, in Christianity, we diverge from some of the other realist type philosophies out there, such as Stoicism, where in that Greek philosophy there's the candid recognition that life is unfair and life is cruel sometimes, but there's a sort of despondency in Stoicism, saying, okay, well, life is terrible and we're just gonna have to bear it, whereas in Christianity, and thanks to texts like this here in Ecclesiastes, it's not just despondency. We can still choose to find joy. We can still choose to enjoy what God has given us. After all, this life is a gift, and all the things that we have, the food, the drink, the work, are gifts from God that he has given us under the sun, within this life, in this world. However well or unwell it goes with you, you can find joy in what God has provided. And it doesn't sound like much, but in the context of all this kind of like pessimistic depression of how unfair life is and how cruel the world can be and how unjust our societies always are, it actually is quite a statement to say you can still take joy. You can still eat, drink, be joyful, and this is good. In the face of despondency, in the face of meaninglessness, in the face of the vanities of this world, we can say, I choose joy, because we know the Lord and we trust him. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be vindicated if we're righteous. Which we're not. We're all sinners. Remember that from earlier. Remember a couple sections ago, he very straightforwardly said, There is no one that does good and never sins. So, all the more reason to be joyful in the good things that we do find and experience and have, because we probably didn't deserve any of those goods, and yet there they are in the midst of this unfair life. Anyway, he then concludes the chapter in verses 16 and 17. He's already beginning to use this section as a sort of middle section or like malleable connection from this section to the last in chapter 9 that we will get to next time. But here in verses 16 and 17 at least, once again Koheleth admits that God is beyond his ability to comprehend. I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth. Then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. So he's reaching, he's trying to comprehend, but he cannot. So this is important. Having faith in God's order of creation, despite the present unfairness of life, and even choosing to take joy in the pleasures there are available to us in this imperfect life, still all that does not provide us with the answers to the big questions about life, the universe, and everything. God remains a mystery, no matter how we apply ourselves. However righteous, however wise you might be, however joyful and content you might be with him in this imperfect world, you will still never get all your questions answered. And if you are looking for all the explanations, you will be disappointed. We can return to the book of Job to experience this very lesson in another way also. As you know, Job cries out to God for an answer, for an explanation. Why am I suffering? Why has all this befallen me? And then his friends are trying to tell him, well, it's because you sinned. You deserved this. And he said, well, there was nothing specific that brought this about. So why? This is not fair. God, please answer. And God answers without answering. He says, do you understand what I understand? Can you comprehend what I comprehend? The answer, of course, being no. And so we have, just in Job as well as here in Ecclesiastes, we have to simply take joy in the good things that we have. We have to trust, we have to have faith that the incomprehensible God at least comprehends himself. And however much or however little we understand of God's will, of God's justice, of God's slowness to act in the course of our lifespans, that whatever his purposes are nonetheless good. And however confusing life is, however unjust, I guess, this life is working out to be, or our society turns out to be, or our kings, leaders, and government systems turn out to be, however messed up anything in this world is, we can have faith that God knows what he's doing, however little we understand. And yes, that feels like a cop-out, but I think the more mature you grow in faith, and the closer to God you draw, the more you see just how incomprehensibly vast the Lord is and how inscrutable his purposes are. And so coming to recognize and come to terms with his incomprehensibility and his greatness is part of the struggle of faith that characterizes the growing Christian. So if life confuses you and if God confuses you, you're probably somewhere on the right track. And here we are, learning again the basics. Have faith, trust in God. We know that life isn't fair, and we know that sin happens. But so does God, and God has his solution. And someday we will see it. Thanks be to God.